Hey there trainers, Alakaham here with some more Pokemon video magic, and in this week's video we are going to be diving into my favorite team that I have come up with for the Sinnoh Cup. This was inspired by a video that I watched from a streamer named Yonkis, and his channel is very, very good, so I definitely recommend checking out what he's working on there. And also, while I'm showcasing the team here, I wanted to mention up front that I would really love if you liked this video, if you enjoyed the content. So giving it a like would be really, really great. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would love for you to subscribe and be a part of the little Pokemon Go community that I've started here. I would love to hear from you in the comments on this video and on others in the future. And with that in mind, I guess we will go ahead and dive into what's going on here. So the big star of today's video is Shadow Magnezone, which I built a while ago just because I thought it would be cool, but I haven't really used it in any meaningful way in previous seasons of GBL. But actually, Shadow Magnezone is really, really good against most of the meta for the Sinnoh Cup. So what I'm going to do here with this team is to start with Gliscor, which will hopefully be able to handle fighters. And if I don't hit a fighter up front, I'm immediately going to safe swap into Drapion to see if I can draw out things that are going to be a problem for Magnezone later. So not necessarily just fighters, right? Like I had Toxicroak in mind when I developed that strategy, but it also works for the little Gastrodon things too. Pretty much anything that can beat our Magnezone, right? Because Shadow Magnezone is incredibly glassy. It even loses to some things that it does super effective damage against. So you've got to be really, really careful and try and get shield advantage for the Shadow Magnezone. If you decide to use it, Shadow Magnezone is very tricky. All right, so I have gone way longer talking about the general setup than I intended to here. So basically what happened here is I made a safe swap. I went ahead and planned to soft lose in that the match against the Empoleon, but they decided to let the Empoleon go, which is fine by me. So I ended up winning switch advantage there, and instead of lining up my Gliscor against the Drifblim, we ended up lining up our Shadow Magnezone against it, which is perfect because now they have their Toxicroak, and we can bring in our Vampire Bat there to just completely farm down. And when shields have been lowered or shields are down, Gliscor actually does fine against Drifblim because it can do super effective damage with the Night/Dark move, which is going to be super effective against ghosts, right? So the little hot air balloon there is not going to appreciate these dark type attacks, and with an energy advantage against it, we are able to pull out a win there. You might also notice that I have not given my Vampire Bat a secondary charge move there, and that's not for lack of desire, but because I'm building up Stardust for something special that I want to feature later. So as of right now, it works out fine to just have the single charge move, and you know, that's okay. As long as it's whatever you choose for your Go Battle team is working out for you, then hey, that's all that matters, right? So I immediately swapped in my my Scorpion thing, Shadow Scorpion thing, Drapion, against their Drifblim lead. I'm going to see a lot of Drifblim leads here, and they stayed in probably, I mean, I would argue a little bit too long because they did have to go ahead and use up a shield. And then they bring in Lucario, and that's exactly what I want to see because Lucario would absolutely wreck Shadow Magnezone. So we definitely want to line up the Gliscor against Lucario here. So I'm going to go ahead and build up to 2 charge moves, and we do have shield advantage now, so I'm going to throw 1 to take out the Lucario, and I have a second ready for the Drifblim there. And I decided to go ahead and shield the Icy Wind because I already had the Night Slash ready to go, and even resisted, it's gonna hurt. So I'm going to immediately swap into my Magnezone and draw out whatever they have in the back, which is a Munchlax, a tiny Snorlax, which I think is super fun. And unfortunately for Munchlax, it does not generate energy all that quickly, even though it has access to Lick as a fast move. And Magnezone does generate energy like super, super fast. The opponent recognizes they're going to have to throw energy to keep me from getting to another Mud Shot, but they also threw a Shadow Ball, which was at that range definitely unnecessary. So that was fairly lucky for me there, because they might have won if they went for back-to-back Icy Winds, but fortunately they went for Shadow Ball to guarantee that they were going to knock out the Magnezone, and that gave us opportunity to finish off that game with our Dracula player there. All right, so we are going to start with Dracula again versus, this time, an Ice Fang Drapion, which I do not see very often. Definitely did not expect that. But that's pretty cool. Poison Sting generates energy really fast, but running Ice Fang is going to catch a lot of people off guard. And there are quite a few flyers in this particular meta, so yeah, that's a pretty cool idea for the Sinnoh Cup, and kudos to my opponent for that one. We are going to get to a couple of crunches there and are not quite able to clinch the third crunch. I'm going to go ahead and let that charge move come through because I didn't think we were at risk of being KO'd. And what I really want to do is build up energy to throw against the Drapion here. And unfortunately, it is a Bastiodon, so they kind of faked me out there. I'm going to immediately switch into my Shadow Magnezone because Magnezone actually has a pretty decent matchup against the Bastiodon. So I go for a bait here with Mirror Shot, which I should not have done because Wild Charge does neutral damage to Bastiodon, and it would have done so much. So no more messing around. We are going to go straight for our hard-hitting electric move here. And see how much damage that does? That is a lot of damage to the Bastiodon. And I figured that they would go ahead and swap out after we threw our hardest hitting move, so I went ahead and threw the Mirror Shot bait. I successfully got the shield, and yeah, Wild Charge is going to one-shot Drapion. So we were lucky. It turned out, even though the Ice Fang was bad for our Dracula thing at the beginning, it's resisted by Magnezone. So Shadow Magnezone was able to stay on top of those fast moves, and it just charges so quickly. You can get to wild charges like no problem, right? Okay, so we hit another Drift Bloom lead. So same song and dance as before, safe swap into Drapion, and their safe swap is somehow Bastiodon, which is kind of interesting. Now, if I were running Aqua Tail here, this would be a much better matchup, and they shield the first time, probably thinking it's an Aqua Tail. But out of laziness, I just have not switched that Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb is what I normally run for the standard Great League, so I'm just running the same stuff that I normally do. Crunch does quite a bit of neutral damage, so I'm not too worried here. We can soft lose this matchup. Oh, we do get to another Crunch, so that is even better. That will be very helpful when we bring in our next Pokemon, which I think is going to be Magnezone now that we have Shield Advantage. Yeah, so we can farm down with neutral Sparks, and now we have an energy advantage. They bring in a Toxicroak, which is a very strong counter to Magnezone, except they don't have shields. So we are going to one-shot them with, with Wild Charge, right? Which is just a completely busted attack. Wild Charge is going to one-shot most of the stuff in this meta, even stuff that should hypothetically resist. And looks like the opponent just kind of stopped there, saw the writing on the wall. Makes sense. I was going to shield their next charge move and then go for another Night Slash with Gliscor, and then of course we still had Shadow Magnezone in the back, and the debuff had been reset. So things were pretty comfortable for us in that particular matchup. So I was really happy with how that turned out. And I think this is the final match, so we are going to go ahead and launch into one more Shadow Magnezone extravaganza here to close out the set. Took us a minute to find an opponent, but that's all right. So we are going to hop in with Gliscor on the lead, and this time we have a really good lead against a Toxicroak, and they bring in Drapion, and I stay in too long. I should have immediately swapped into Shadow Drapion right there, but instead I tank an attack, and then I go for a Night Slash, which doesn't make a lot of sense because that's going to be resisted, and I didn't build up enough energy to fake them into thinking that it was an Earthquake, so that mistakes all around. Mistakes were made. So here I'm going to go for crunches and hope that we drop the opponent's defense, which is one of the possibilities associated with crunch. For whatever reason, they do not throw energy. They're building up extra energy, I guess. So I'm going to go for another crunch, and that's good for us because it forces them to shield. Now, because they used a shield, I figure I can use one here and then get to another crunch and either take switch or take shield advantage. But they get to an Aqua Tail, and I still get to the crunch, so it's not terrible, right? This is still salvageable. So I'm going to throw the crunch. We take advantage there. They bring in Tox, and we are going to come back in with the Gliscor and go for Night Slash. Now, because Toxicroak is part fighter, Night Slash is going to be resisted, so they know that they don't have to shield that. I'm really just hoping to chip damage so that I can try to farm down. But I cannot. They reach a charge move. That's okay. I'm going to let... Oh! And a Simul KO. Not bad. Okay, so they bring in Abomasnow, and this is looking pretty good because Abomasnow is weak to Steel. But the thing is, we are going to need to reach 3 mirror shots, and we cannot tank an Energy Ball. Even though Energy Ball is resisted, it hits super hard. So I get to the 2, I shield a bait, and I get to the double mirror shots, and the Abomasnow throws Energy Ball. So that was very clever by the opponent. They did a good job realizing that I would be kind of defensive there and seeking to shield in order to race to my mirror shots, and they recognized that that was my win con. So that was very well played by my opponent. I've got to tell you, playing with Shadow Magnezone has been a lot of fun, more fun than I expected it to be. It actually has a lot better matchups than I expected it to have, given how glassy it is. But I really loved using it, and I hope that you enjoyed seeing Shadow Magnezone in play. If you did, again, I would really appreciate if you left a like or talk to me in the comments, and I'll bring you some more Pokemon video magic soon, folks. I'll talk to you next time, trainers.